Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. I'm Dan Sloan, president of this organization. This year, we've been honored to host the Israeli ambassador twice, in late January and then in June. And today, we welcome our guest speakers, Amir Ohana, speaker of the Israeli Knesset, as well as Gal and Ilan Dalal, the brother and father of Israeli hostage Guy Dalal Gilboa, and all will discuss the latest developments in the region. As a disclaimer to any event we hold, the FCCJ does not choose sides. It looks for representation by all parties on an issue. In an increasingly polarized world, we try to hold media events without bias or partisanship that create news value. Looking at the Middle East, the war began in October 2023 when Hamas-led fighters stormed into Israel, killing 1,200 and taking 251 hostages. By January 2025, a ceasefire had just begun in Gaza and a limited hostage release. However, by March, the ceasefire was no longer in effect as violence and the number of Palestinian deaths escalated. They now reach over 62,000, with Gaza facing a humanitarian crisis that has displaced most of its population. Discussion about a new 60-day ceasefire has intensified, but so far Israel has demanded release of all 50 remaining hostages in Gaza. Israel believes that only 20 of the 50 are still alive, and that does include Guy Dalal. This week, attention has turned to Israeli strikes on Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis that killed at least 20 people, including 5 journalists, as well as protests across Israel calling for release of hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. Dubbed the Day of Disruption by the Hostages and Missing Families Family Forum, the protests called for the war to come to an end so the hostages can come home. One of our guest speakers today, Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana, joined Parliament in 2015 and has held his current post since 2022 and is a member of the Prime Minister's Likud party. He previously served in Shin Bet, the intelligence organization, the IDF, and was trained as a lawyer. For our other guests, they are family members, respectively the father and brother of a hostage, and they will explain today what it's been like for the last 22 months for themselves and other families, and as well as their feelings about a possible ceasefire. Today we will have opening comments from the speaker, then the father, and then we will have a brief video and go to question and answer immediately thereafter. With no further ado, Speaker.
Thank you, Dan. Konnichiwa. Hello, everyone. It is a profound privilege to be the first speaker of the Knesset in 26 years to visit Japan. With me on this delegation, members of Knesset Boaz Bismuth, chairperson of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee representing the coalition, and Mirav Ben-Ari, the whip of the opposition, majority whip, the minority whip, representing the opposition, both co-chair the interparliamentary friendship group between Israel and Japan. We are here today on behalf of the Knesset and the people of Israel to reaffirm the vital bond between our nations. On this, there is no coalition and opposition in Israel. And we have also gathered to give voice to a young man who cherishes Japan, who dreamed of walking in its streets, yet has endured nearly 2 years in brutal Hamas captivity, Guy Gilboa Dalal. With us are his father, Ilan, and his brother, Gal, which you will shortly hear from. Guy was preparing for the journey he had dreamed of since childhood, to visit Japan, to experience the culture that inspired him so deeply. He taught himself to read, write, and speak Japanese. But it all stopped on October 7th, that day which will go down in history as the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust, resulted in the hideous slaughter of 1,200 innocent Israelis by Hamas. They murdered, butchered, burned, raped, and kidnapped. Live streaming images so diabolical that words still fail us. Guy's childhood friend, Eviatar David, was kidnapped alongside him. Weeks ago, Hamas released a video of Eviatar, skeletal and starved, compelled to dig his own grave. I know that some in Japan are concerned about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Let me reassure you, Israel has done its utmost to protect civilians and entered over 2 million tons of humanitarian aid since the beginning of the war, more than any military in the history of warfare. The only deliberate starvation in the Gaza Strip is the one our hostages are suffering. Please look at Eviatar's face. Hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, a body wasting away by deliberate starvation. Focus on his hand, skin and bones. See the difference between his hand and the healthy hand of the terrorist giving him the can of beans. And please tell me, who of the two suffers from starvation? Hamas does not only spread lies, they do everything to endanger civilians, weaponizing misery by looting aid shipments, blocking their distribution, and fighting from behind human shields. The war in Gaza is not a border dispute, and Israel's seven-front war from Yemen to Iran is not a regional conflict. This is the global struggle of our age. The forces of radicalism, extremism, and fundamentalism against those of freedom, liberty, and democracy, which in our region Israel represents. In this struggle, alliances cannot depend on interests. They must be built on values. Israel is fighting the free world's battle, and it is here that our nations must stand united. Israel and Japan are kindred nations, ancient civilizations, yet innovators of the modern age. Both endured devastation, yet rose to become builders, creators, and powerhouse of human achievement. Both faced ruthless regional adversaries, yet forged thriving democracies. On opposite ends of Asia, we stand guard together on liberty's front line. Our solidarity has shone even in the darkest hours. During the Holocaust, Japanese diplomat Chiune Sugihara saved thousands of Jews. We shall never forget that. After the great East Japan earthquake and the Noto earthquake, Israel was the first to stand by Japan. We call on Japan to continue and stand by Israel. Rewarding terror with recognition of statehood will not progress peace. On the contrary, it sends a dangerous message to terrorist organizations throughout the world that mass murder advances a cause, that terror turns a profit, and that evil yields results. This is not the time for weak leadership. Weak leaders who say they will recognize a so-called Palestinian state following the October 7th massacre are modern-day appeasers. Appeasement has been tried and tried again. The lesson always is the same. Those who indulge the beast of terror are bound to become its prey. And make no mistake, if Hamas is praising you, it means you're helping their cause. Yes, even if you use the lip service of condemning them. And eventually, Hamas will bite the hand that feeds it. My friends, 73 years have passed since Israel and Japan established diplomatic ties. Direct flights now connect us. Israeli innovations shine at the World's Expo in Osaka. Our nations are united by a commitment to excellence, a devotion to learning, and a deep sense of responsibility to the world. Together, let us commit to fight for a future where no parent waits in anguish for a child to return from the terror tunnels in Gaza or the dungeons of Pyongyang. Let us stand united against the Hamas, North Korea, the Ayatollah regime of Iran, and all forms of terror. Let us fight together for peace, and let peace prevail. Thank you.
Now we will have Ilan Dalal speak. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ilan. I'm the father of Guy Gilboa Dalal, which is held hostage in Gaza for the past 2 years already. Guy is my middle son. Guy is my middle son. He has an older brother and a younger sister. They are very connected. They're very tied to each other, and the missing of Guy is very absent in our house. Restart. Okay. Guy is a very talented musician. He plays guitars from very little age. He plays all kinds of guitars. He likes animal. We have in our house cats and dogs. And Guy he likes computer games. He's a very serious gamer. Play all night with his friends. He just finished his education in computer science, and 2 months before he was abducted, he started to work for a new company for 2 months, and then he was kidnapped. He's a great fan of Maccabi Haifa, which is a football team in Israel. He likes football, he likes all other sports. And from very little age, Guy liked anime, Japanese anime, which was introduced to him by his older brother, Gal. I think from the age of a year and a half, he started to see animals and get acknowledged to the Japanese language, which he learned to read, write, and speak with his friends in order to go to Japan and fulfill his big dream to see Japan and to travel all over this beautiful country and meet the people and the culture that he fell in love in. He was abducted from the Nove Music Festival and couldn't fulfill his dream. But people that heard about the story and went to Japan sent us picture with signs that Guy will visit Japan. All over Japan, people know his story. We have already indicated 2 birthdays of Guy in captivity. He was abducted at the age of 22. He is now 24, and it's 2 birthdays that he's alone in the dark tunnels, without his family, without his friends, and not getting the love that he deserves. This is a sukkah that's standing in a house. On the right side, you can see Guy on October 6th sitting in the sukkah. It was 1 day before the last day of Sukkot. On Saturday, it was the last day of Sukkot, and Guy, before he went to the music festival, he told me, Father, tomorrow is the we take apart the sukkah. Don't do it alone. I will come back from the festival and I will help you, and we'll do it together. And he didn't come back from the festival. And the sukkah is standing in our house for almost 2 years now, and waiting for Guy to come back and fulfill his promise. On October 7, Guy went to the music festival with 3 of his best friends to dance, to celebrate life, and to have good time. They came to the compound at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the evening, and he immediately started to text his mother, as he always done, because he never let his parents worry. He always tell us where he is, when he's coming home, where he's going, and that's the way it was on the same night. He told us that he arrived to the compound of the party. He told us that he made a face painting, and then at about 6 o'clock in the morning, his older brother Gal, arrived also to the music festival compound to be with his younger brother. He wasn't meant to be in this festival, but he was really wanted to experience that with Guy, which this festival was his first outdoor festival that he attended. They had a good time, but at 6:30, hell started on them, and the terrorists came to the compound, started to shooting people. They murdered many people on the same day, and the people just were running for their lives, and so Guy and Gal also ran for their lives, and they got separated in the chaos that was in there. These are the 2 friends of Guy that were murdered. Guy and his friend were hiding under a bush, and at some point, Guy and his friend Aviatar didn't feel safe there, and they wanted to go to hide somewhere else. And this 2 young couple was afraid to leave this bush, and they stayed there. And eventually, they were both murdered by Hamas, and Guy and Aviatar were kidnapped. This is Guy and Aviatar. They are good friends from the age of kindergarten. They grew up their whole life together. They play guitar together. They have the same friend. They went to the music festival together, and they were kidnapped together. And now they're held together in the same dark tunnel, 30 meters underground, by Hamas. This is the video of the abduction of Guy, where we can see a terrorist moving him on the main road and taking him to a truck, load him up, and take him to Gaza. Here you can see the terrorists moving Guy. This is a video we got from the intelligence a few months after October 7. And this is a close picture of the terrorist that taking Guy. And in the right, you can see they putting them inside the truck and taking them into Gaza. This picture was published by Hamas as a part of a video on October 7 at noon. This is how we found out that Guy was kidnapped. In this time, his brother Gal was in the field hiding and running for his life, and we didn't want to make him worry, and we wanted him to take care of his life, of his. Why it's not going forward? Okay, this is the video of the kidnapping from October 7, which the picture you saw before was taken from this video. You can see the people inside the dark room, afraid and in shock. This is Guy. Forward, please. Okay, this is Gal. While Guy was already in Gaza, Gal was hiding and running. You can see here Gal running in the field where the explosive above them, and luckily he was rescued by Israeli security forces and brought him back to Israel. Okay, this is the Nova Festival compound, which the massacre took place in, and now it became a big memorial site. A few months ago, the Hamas told Guy that he's going to be released home, and actually they gave him a lot of food 2 weeks before that. And on the day of the release, they took him to the compound when they released other hostages and made him watch them go back to their homes, to their families, to their lives, and made them beg for their lives, and then took them back to the dark tunnels. Not me. Two more minutes. Two more. I don't know.
איתי, אולי תנסה לעזור?
Okay. Anyway, 3 weeks ago, Hamas published this video of Aviatar that you see, where he's skinny. They made him dig his own grave, and they told him that this will be his grave, and he will never come back home. We know that Guy and Aviatar are being kept in the same tunnel, in the same condition, and going through the same atrocities. They are starved together, and we have every reason to believe that Guy looks just the same, but Hamas didn't publish his video for some reason. So right now, we fear very much for their lives, because this was taken 3 weeks ago, and since then, we don't know if they got any food or medical aids. We have every reason to believe that they didn't, and we fear very much for their lives. And this is the situation right now. We came to Japan to ask for their help in order to pressure Hamas, to give them food and aid, and to help us get them all back home together. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Yes. What I'd like, yeah.
On this video is the ceremony of Hamas that releasing other hostages while Guy and Aviatar are sitting in the van and watching them.
This was the first time they took Guy and Aviatar out of the tunnels in 10 months. First time they experienced daylight to see and watch the best friends getting released, and then they dragged them back.
So we've kind of gone a tad over time. Our guests have somewhat of a tight window today, so if there is another video, we're going to wait until the end. And now we're going to go directly to Q&A. Obviously, we have a limited time, so all of our guests here, we're going to start with our working press.
Okay.
Sorry.
There's another animation video which we're going to see. Animation video we prepared about the story of Guy. It's 7 minutes, yes. It's a video animation we prepared about the story of Guy, which is hopefully and full of optimism for a better future. We'll see it now. Thank you.
האגו שלי הוא כמו פרח, הוא פשוט ילד שבתחילת החיים שלו הוא היה ממש ביישן, היה שם את הכובע על הראש תמיד, מתחבא, לא אוהב להתחפש.
אחים קטנים היו הולכים מכות WWE, הוא היה עושה לי קמע. הוא היה רץ עם הידיים אחורה כמו נארוטו.
הוא ילד חזק. הוא יכול לעבור הרבה דברים להישאר בסנטר שלו.
גיא מנגן הכי טוב בגיטרה. כששומעים את המנגינה שהוא מנגן, אז אני ישר מצטרפת אליו. תמיד יש סביבו שטויות וצחוקים וכיף.
את האהבה שלו לאנימה ולתרבות היפנית, הוא לקח צעד קדימה. הוא ממש לימד את עצמו לדבר יפנית ולכתוב ולקרוא, בשביל שהוא יוכל להגיע לשם, להסתדר בכוחות עצמו. הוא כל כך התרגש למסיבה הזאת, חודשים לפני, הוא כבר התכונן אליה, ויום לפני הוא בא אליי הביתה. הוא בכל הארון עבר, והוא לקח 2 קימונואים, אחד של נארוטו ואחד של הקצקי. וזה הבגדים שהוא בחר לקחת איתו לנובה.
כבר התחלתי להבין שמשהו לא בסדר, כי אין מצב שגיא לא יתקשר אליי.
פתאום אנחנו מגלים סרטונים שצצים בטלגרם, איזשהו מחבל נוח'בה מוביל אותו לטנדר.
חטפו את הילד שלי, אני בסרט אימה. גיא, בוא, תקשיב, אם קורה לך משהו, אתה נותן לך חבטה בלב, ואתה מרגיש את האהבה של אמא מתמוססת לך בתוך הגוף, ככה, מרפדת לך את כל הגוף, ואז אתה ממשיך לחשוב על אבא, גל וגאיה, כי אתה יודע שאנחנו תמיד מסביבך, ואנחנו המגנת שלך.
הוא רוצה חופש, שהוא יכול לעשות מה שהוא רוצה ביפן. תראה, טיול ארוך.
אני רוצה שתחזור הביתה לשיר איתך ולנגן איתך.
אז הגיע אפריל, והגיעה פריחת הדובדבן, וגיא עדיין שם.
שיבוא, שיעשה אותנו שוב פעם משפחה שלמה ומאושרת.
going to go ahead and start the Q&A section. We are kindly granted another 10 minutes, so we'll go to 5:10 today by our guests. We are live streaming on YouTube. An archive will be made, but we also are getting live questions from those watching. We will start with our working press in the room. Each individual should limit themselves to one question. Identify yourself and your affiliation. Please, no speeches, and as best you can, try to limit yourself to one question. Let's open the floor. Yes, sir.
My name is Takuya Nishimura, freelance journalist. Japan is the country with constitution which tries to settle the international conflict, not through military operation, but through negotiation, talking each other. Having said that, do you believe that the military operation on Hamas, with destruction of cities and peoples in Gaza, is the best way to release the Israeli hostages? And do you see no chance in ceasefire and negotiation with Palestine, including related countries, for releasing your hostages? Thank you very much.
You would like that to go to the speaker or to all guests?
To all.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have managed to release so far most of the hostages, more than 200, some through military operations, and the majority, most of them, through the ceasefire deals that we had before. So we are well familiar with the fact that we need to reach a deal. We were on the verge of reaching a deal to release half of the hostages, those who are alive and those who are dead, until the starvation campaign, the fake starvation campaign of the Hamas began. And then some appeasers, leaders of the world, thought that the best thing to do now is to consider recognizing a Palestinian state. And then Hamas backed off the deal, realizing that they are on the roll, that they are winning, and the world will stop Israel, so they don't need a deal. At this point, we believe we can reach a deal by combining two forces. One is the military pressure, which we are doing. We don't expect any other country to do that for us. And the other is the diplomatic pressure, which we do expect the free world to unite to achieve that. Once you put that pressure on Hamas, you push them with their backs against the wall until they will have to come up with a deal. And this is what we are doing now. The war, let me remind all of us, could end today. If Hamas surrender their weapons and releases the hostages, the war ends today, not tomorrow. But they are reluctant to do so, and so we have no choice other than to fight. If we do not wish for this father and for this brother to come advocate for the release of their brothers 40 years from now. Japan knows that sentiment because Japanese citizens were abducted by North Korea 40 years ago. We don't want these families to be under that condition, which is why we fight. We have no choice. I wish we had. The fact of the matter is that we don't.
Hamas is a terrorist organization. It is recognized as a terrorist organization by most of the countries of the world. And to speak reason with terrorist organization, it's impossible. They don't comply any international law and any humanitarian law. So whatever deals we came up to with Hamas, they always broke it down. And this is our main problem here, because we are not dealing with rational people, and they treat the hostages as bad as they treat their own people. So Hamas must be eliminated and not controlling Gaza on the day after, because this is only will make life worse both for Israeli and Palestinians.
Gal, do you want to say?
I would say that we all know that Hamas is a terror organization, that we as Israeli and the Palestinian people in Gaza suffering from them, and they suffering from them just as much as we are, if not more. And if you really want to have peace in the Middle East, you can't do it with Hamas. Hamas, they won't release the hostages, and they use them as cards in their games. And if we will stop the military pressure, then they don't have to give them back, and they don't need to put them as cards because we just stopped the military pressure. You understand? So we don't have the privilege not to fight for my brother. I would add that, you know, as we said before, me and my brother, we grew up watching animes together. And if there's one anime that we really love is Attack on Titan, Shingeki no Kyojin. And there's a text there when the main character, he speaks to himself, and he says, if I win, we live. But if I lose, we die. If I won't fight, I can't win. So fight, tatakai. And I don't have the privilege to not fight for my brother. I could never stop fighting for him. And I wish it was October 6th again. And I wish it was peace right now. But it isn't. We are facing terror organization that we're, Israel, can't face them alone. We can't put military pressure, but we need your help, the diplomatic pressure from you and from the whole world to push Hamas to agree a deal, to lay down their weapons, and to give a real chance to a real peace, long-lasting peace in the Middle East, and a real life for not just us, but also for the Gazan citizens.
All right, open the floor to questions further. If not, I have one from online. Yes, sir, go ahead. And if you have a specific recipient of your question, please identify.
I'd like to ask a question speaker. My name is Kohei Tsuji. I'm a reporter for NHK, the Japanese television. My question is about ICC, International Criminals Court. The U.S. State Department put another sanction about 10 days ago on 4 judges and prosecutors. We are afraid that rule of law, the institution that respects the rule of law, is being threatened by placed sanctions. Can you give us your response to what is happening to ICC?
Yes, of course, we are obliged to follow the rules of conduct, and we are binded to the international law, but we refute the ICC's decision. We think it is unbalanced, it is biased, it is based on misconceptions and made up data coming from Hamas. Hamas is very good in spreading lies. And I think that if the judges at the ICC would put themselves in our shoes, they would realize that the first rule in international law as well as in state law is self-defense. The number one reason for the existence of a state, any state, not just the state of Israel, is to defend their civilians. And this is what we have been doing since October 7th, and this is what we shall continue to do. And I will finish with a quote of one of the wisest women I have ever heard. She was our 4th prime minister, and her name is Golda Meir. And she said to the world, "We would rather have your condemnations than your condolences."
This is a question from Eiichiro Tokamoto, freelance writer. This is for the speaker. The Israeli government has banned foreign journalists to enter Gaza independently since the war started 2 years ago. Some journalists have been taken into Gaza by the IDF under controlled access, and major news agencies are calling on Israel to allow them in and out of the area freely. Do you think journalists should be allowed to have independent, unrestricted access to Gaza without an IDF escort?
Gaza is a war zone. It is not safe to walk into war zones. In several cities and areas in Gaza, we have been evacuating the civilians, like when we entered Rafah. And the world said, do not enter Rafah. There are too many civilians, over 1 million civilians in Rafah. and the collateral damage will be devastating, and the loss of innocent lives will be tremendous. But we have proven that we can do it. We have evacuated all the civilians from Rafah and then engaged in battles with the Hamas and managed to eliminate most of the fighters, the terror fighters of Hamas and their leadership. At this point, there is no problem, absolutely no problem, to stream live from Gaza to provide videos, data, information, but at this point, no civilian enters the Gaza Strip, only the soldiers, and I think it should remain this way until, of course, the war is over and it is safer to walk in. If we could have isolated the Hamas terrorists from the civilians, let me assure you the war would end in a week, tops. But of course, understanding that Hamas is not only targeting civilians, which is a war crime, of course, with every missile and every rocket that they fire, but they are doing so operating from heavily populated residential areas, expecting the women and children and babies and journalists to be used as their human shields, and the world's hypocrisy as their Iron Dome. We're not going to help them with that.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Takami Hanzawa from Kyoto News. I hope Guy will be released and visit Japan soon. I do hope, but I can't stick to that hope without thinking about the people in Gaza. And may I have your to the chairman? May I have your reaction to the recent attack? Israel shelling Gaza hospital and got 5 people killed, 5 journalists killed. And my question is, Israeli government claimed that they always give warning before they attack schools, hospitals, other public facilities. But conflicting information is that people hear no warning. And sometimes just 20 minutes in a huge, large size medical facilities. Do you think it's enough for the people, handicapped and sick people, to leave that facility before the actual attack happens? That was my question.
Okay, so first of all, let me state that we never target civilians. However, in war zones, civilians get in the harm's way. We are not the one and only military in the world that found out a way to avoid collateral damage, what we call in the military jargon collateral damage, which means civilian gets hurt. However, military experts coming from the world to learn what it is that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, are doing in Gaza, all claim and say, and they are willing to be interviewed about it, that the IDF is doing more than any other military in the history of warfare to keep the numbers as low as possible. I cannot tell you it is 0, it is not 0, but it is lower than other militaries fighting under such conditions. Now, of course, we are sad, and it's a tragedy that everyone which is not a terrorist lose their lives. We have lost many of our civilians on October 7th and the days since, and it happened in Gaza and we are sorry for every life that are not terrorists, that are lost. But once the war is over, and I do believe it will be over sooner than later, by the returning of all the hostages and the disarmament of Hamas, this will hopefully stop.
This is another online question for the Dalal family from Keiko Kurane of UCA News. From your perspective, what do you see as the most realistic path to bring your son and brother home and others still being held hostage? What role do you hope Japan and the international community can play?
Well, we know that the best way to bring all the hostages live and well home is by making a deal. And in order to do so, we need the world to understand that pressuring on Israel will not bring us to this object, because when Hamas see pressure on Israel from all over the world, it just withdraw from its will to make a deal, because it says if the world and Europe is doing the work for me and they're pressuring Israel, why should I make a deal? For me, the hardest thing in the world right now is to be here in Japan, because to be in Japan, it's the dream of my son. And right now, as we speak, as we sit here, my son is dying in the tunnels, in the dark tunnels in Gaza, held by Hamas, in a dark tunnel with no daylight, with no fresh air, with no proper food, and with no medical care. So, of course, we would like to have the deal as soon as possible, but we need your help for that. We need the world help. We need the world to understand that in order to achieve this deal that will release hostages back home, that will release the people of Gaza from the collapse of Hamas, because they are suffering from Hamas not less than us. And in order to do so, you need to understand that you must support the state of Israel.
If Hamas would give up their weapons and give the hostages back, the war could end today. We know for sure that if Hamas will stay there after, the hostages will return, and I don't really see a scenario where the hostages return and Hamas stay, but if it will happen, then this is just, to me, an hypocrisy from the world, because then you leave the children of Gaza, again, by the hand of terrorists that's raising them, making them being murderer, praying for death since they were born. We don't want this kind of future for them, and we don't want this kind of future for us. What we want is a long-lasting peace. We want prosperity in Gaza. We want them to have better education. We want them to have more tourism. We want them to be able to live and have a chance to a real life. And we can't do it, as I said, on ourselves. We're here not just to tell Guy's story, not just to ask you to do everything in your power to put pressure on Hamas to release the hostages and lay down the weapons. Right now, I am a brother that misses the younger brother so much. You know, I love Guy so much. I think about him every day. I can hear him screaming at me from the tunnels of Gaza, asking me, what have I done today to help him? And the only thing I can think about it is going from country to country, speaking with media and politicians and ask them, do what you can to put pressure on this terror organization to not just give us a better future and help the hostages, to help all the Middle East. But right now, seriously, the only thing that I care about is get them food. Look at this picture again. This hand of the terrorist that handing beans can to Eviatar is 3 times bigger than the skeleton that's getting the food. My brother is in the same condition. The hostages are in the same condition. Hamas starving them on purpose, not just them. He's also starving his own people. He wouldn't let them to go get aid, to go get food, and he make them to bring it to him so they can keep it to themselves and then use it to make them more terrorists. So in the end, we can't face them alone. We need your help to put diplomatic pressure. And even if it's not to release the hostages and end this war now, get them food. It's the least I can ask.
Yes, sir.
I'm Johan Nylander from a Swedish newspaper, Dagens Industri. And this is more a question, father to another father. You are here to fight for your son's life. You're here to fight for your brother's life. And meanwhile, in Europe, in America, all across the world, there are like pro-Palestine demonstrations, there are pro-Hamas demonstrations, there are anti-Israeli demonstrations. I'm sure you have faced a lot of abuse on social media for your fighting here. So my question is, I mean, how does that make you feel, like in your heart, that you're fighting for your son's life while you have condemnations and demonstrations against your country, against your people globally?
They will answer, but I have to say this is a very good question and a very considerate one. Thank you for it.
Well, as you said, I'm a father whose son is being held hostage for almost 2 years. I miss him and I want him to get back home. What happened in the world with the demonstrations against Israel is a sad thing, because Western countries should support Western countries against terrorist organizations. If Western countries support terrorist organizations that fight free countries, then this is the message that their society is getting, that it is okay to come out to the streets and protest against the only democratic country in the Middle East that is really trying to achieve peace and prosperity to the region. And we are facing terror organization on all our borders that their main goal is to destroy us, to kill all the Jews. And in this matter, I'm very disappointed from the Western countries that instead of supporting Israel, they are supporting terrorist organization, giving them prizes as a recognition in Palestinian states, which in their own hands, they made the war longer and the suffer of the Gaza and the Israeli people longer.
I would add, I kind of feel like the world gone mad, and as I said before, I went through so many countries this last 2 years. And you know what? It's not even half or 90%, 100% of all the protests that I have ever seen that are about Israel, pro-Israel, they are always, let's hug, let's call for peace, let's talk and find a solution. All the protests, 100% of them, of the pro-Palestinians, are always deaf to the Jews, free Palestine, take their land, kill them, very violent protests. I think that it's very obvious who wants peace and who will do anything to get it, while who decide to fight for the violence and the darkness. And in the end, our country will always stand, because we will always fight for the right thing. But, you know, I can say that this world got violent. You can see leaders, other countries. You have borders with countries that you wish you hadn't. You also have neighbors that make your life much harder because they don't want peace. And that's something you can understand us. We are surrounded by countries that want us dead. And yet we keep fighting. Not to, if we wanted to eliminate them, you saw Israel's power. We could have done it long time before, but we don't want it. We want to have peace with them. And, you know, you can take Lebanon, for example. Lebanon, we're under the military control of Hezbollah. But once we weakened them, their ministers want to have peace with Israel. And that's what we want to have with each country in the world.
I wish we had Sweden's neighbors.
Our next online question will come from Shohei Machiyama of Kyoto News. The question is to Mr. Ohana. The Secretary General of the UN mentioned that they authorized the situation of Gaza as a famine, that it's happening. How do you see the circumstances in regard to famine or, I guess, state of the kind of realities out in the Gaza fields every day?
I'm not going to say it's easy to be in Gaza now. It's not. It's hard, as I said earlier, it's a war zone, but the state of Israel is doing its utmost efforts to provide humanitarian aid to all the regions in the Gaza Strip. When we find that there are certain regions where it doesn't get, because Hamas loots and steals that humanitarian aid so that they will be able to sell it to provide for their terrorists, so we parachute them from the air so it will reach anywhere. Now, the UN stated a report recently by the IPC that is a total fraud. The IPC manipulated the report, made up data. They broke their own rules. They've cherry-picked data, and they hid and ignored contradicting data, all to reach the wanted conclusion that there is famine. This is not how you do research. This is not how you examine the facts. I have here, and I can leave it here for anyone that wants. I have only one copy, so you can share it. The numbers, the facts, and if you want, we can send you photos of the markets in Gaza. There is no famine in the Gaza Strip. The only famine you have there is this, towards our hostages. This is the sad truth.
Peter?
My name is Peter Langen. I'm a freelance writer right now. One of the criticisms of media coverage of the war is that the information that's coming out of Gaza originates with Hamas. So, for example, in our own press release here, we have the Israeli attacks have killed more than 62,000 Palestinians. I know Israel has responded to that by saying, well, of that number, there is a number of terrorists. Have you been able to determine how many have been killed of that number, if that number is verifiable? And secondly, could you also elaborate on what are the military casualties that Israel itself has had in the war? Thank you.
So far, we have not been able to verify the numbers that are provided by Hamas. We don't have the exact numbers. I figure that we will have it once the war is over and we can figure out the exact numbers. But we do believe that we have eliminated about between 25 to 30,000 Hamas terrorists so far. They have been recruiting. They have even lowered the age in which you can recruit to 16. This is what they recruit now to Hamas. So the numbers are diminishing when we eliminate them, but still growing when they recruit new forces. We believe we have been able to eliminate roughly 95% of their missiles, rocket capabilities, and to eliminate tens of kilometers of terror tunnels throughout the Gaza Strip, but still hundreds more to go. We can only do that once we finish the war, because in many of those terror tunnels, we have the hostages, which we wouldn't like to risk at this point. It is sad, as I said earlier, every life matters. Every life that are not ones of terrorists, we do not seek. We do not want to harm them. You know, there's a story, I don't know if it's a true story, but it's a good one, so I'll tell it anyway, of the American President George W. Bush calling the Israeli Prime Minister back then, Ehud Olmert, asking him what it is that Israel is doing in Gaza in yet one another cycle of violence that we had there. And Prime Minister explained, Mr. President, this is self-defense. They are shooting rockets at our cities. We must defend our civilians. Imagine Mexico would fire rockets on American soil. In 24 hours, there would be no Mexico. And the president asked, why? And the prime minister replied, well, what do you mean, why, Mr. President? This is how a state should behave, defend their civilians. And the president said, no, why 24 hours? So clearly, Israel is not following that. Or as Gal said, we could have finished the war way earlier. We are doing our utmost efforts to protect civilians and to protect, of course, our hostages as well. But as I said earlier, I cannot tell you that the numbers of collateral damage are zero. I don't have the precise number. We know that there are civilians, on our side too, by the way, because Hamas is targeting civilians. It's not, for them, it's not a collateral damage, it's the target. But we know it happens. We don't have the numbers, unfortunately. But as you can understand, we find it very difficult to trust the numbers provided by Hamas.
Excuse me, this will be the final question. It comes from Ilgin Yorulmaz, freelance journalist. She is directing this to the family members. Obviously, you're sitting next to the speaker, but if you look from the families of hostages' perspective, what do you think the government could have done differently and perhaps brought your son home faster?
Well, as I said before, we are dealing with a terrorist organization which has no reason, and most of the time he withdraw from deals that were already been settled. We have seen this example just a few weeks ago, where they were about to sign a deal to release hostages and make a ceasefire, and suddenly the Europe countries decided to recognize the Palestinian state, and all of a sudden Hamas didn't want to have a deal. So this is the kind of relation we have to suffer with Hamas, which we cannot trust, but this is where our sons is held in, so we have no choice. But to make a deal and to trust a terrorist organization is impossible. I know that my government is doing its best in order to release my son and the other hostages, but the situation is very complicated, and I hope it will be resolved soon.
Today we have 50 hostages, 20 of them are still alive. We started with almost 300 hostages. When we have so much hostages and so many families, you have a lot of point of views, a lot of different opinions. Even in my family, we don't all agree on the same thing. I can say that right in front of you, I was said, I didn't choose this government. I didn't vote for you. And yet, you are facing the most, probably, the hardest negotiation this humanity has ever seen. We're negotiating on human's life. One of them is my brother. There is no one can say what is the solution. We can only do as much as we can. And as I said before, my government can only do as much as they can. They need your help and your support and the rest of the world to put pressure on Hamas diplomatically, because alone we can't handle the terrorism. And as we said before, if we wouldn't be able to handle it, then it will come after you eventually. It will come after Europe, and it will come after you. So I can criticize my government for a lot of things. And as you can see, there are some protests in Israel, protests that started even before, and they are mostly political. And they are using also the hostages. A lot of people go with my brother's picture on their shirt, and they're saying, fired. Like, what is the goal? What are we trying to achieve here? There is one goal: return the hostages and bring peace to the Middle East. And they do everything they can, as I do everything I can. Some people tell me, don't go and talk with politicians. Some people tell me, don't go and talk with press. Everyone do what they can, and I think that if everyone and each of you will go back home with the thing that I care about the peace in the Middle East, and I care about Guy, and I care about the other hostages, and you will do something for them in the right direction for peace and for light, eventually that's what will bring them back. But my government can't do it alone.
All right, gentlemen.
I'm proud of you, and I'm sure Guy is too.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we'd like to thank you all for your time and comments today. I'd ask members of the press to remain seated as our guests leave the room. They have a very tight schedule ahead. Thank you very much.
את הקאפו? מה, לצלם?